when it comes to identifying, suspects in crimes and everything else like that, the more witnesses you have, okay, that can come forward and say, yo, he was the person, he was the person, he was the person. What that does, guys, is it makes that testimony more credible because more people are able to independently corroborate it, okay? So this is how it works when it comes to witness testimony in cases. Number one, they're going to look at the credibility of the witness, right? So if you got a drug trafficker, for example, right? And he says, yo, he gave me 10 keys and then I transported it here and I got caught and that's how y'all caught me with the 10 keys. Well, one criminal's testimony more than likely is not going to be enough. They're going to need other people. This is where conspiracy cases start to flourish, racketeering cases, because if you get multiple people, let's say he was with one or two other individuals and you had surveillance and you have an informant and you potentially were, tracking the phones, etc. When he tells you, yo, I was traveling with 10 kilos of coke, and then two other conspirators say the same thing. Yeah, he was traveling with 10 kilos of coke. And then on top of that, you got physical surveillance to corroborate it. Maybe you had a plane up in the air. Maybe you had, you were tracking his phone, whatever it is. Now that criminal's testimony becomes a lot more credible, because even though he's a criminal, he's been convicted of a bunch of crimes. He's not a reliable witness, right? Because he's lied under oath maybe, or just a felon in general. You have other, right, pieces of evidence that independently corroborate what he's saying, which makes the testimony more credible. Now, I say all that to spin it back and let y'all know, right? The more people that could come forward and point the finger at Migo Bands or whoever this individual is, more than likely, just from y'all seeing the photos and everything else, it looks like it's him, right? I can say conclusively, we're 95% sure that that's our guy, right? The more people that come in and point him and say, yo, that was him, Migo Bands, blah, blah, blah. They're going to show him a photo array or whatever. They're going to be like, okay, boom, we got our fucking guy. Okay. So I guarantee you, they already have him identified. They probably got him under surveillance. They probably know where the fuck he's at this point. Maybe they're even tracking his phone at this point, right? Because he would be considered someone who has the means, right, to travel. I don't think he's from Texas. I think he's from Georgia originally. So they want to know where the hell he's at. And they're more than likely, what I'm thinking is one of two things is going to happen. This is my prediction, of course, but it's either they're going to convene a grand jury, right? Which when you convene a grand jury, you get a bunch of people, right? Just like kind of like it's like a jury for like a trial. They come in and the investigator goes in. He says, "Yo, this is the facts of the case." He's there with the prosecutor. They establish all the elements of the crime. They talk about the facts of the case, how they came to that conclusion. Yo, we have 20 witnesses that were at this establishment that identified Migo Bands as the potential shooter, etc. Cool. They get a true bill. That true bill gets them an arrest warrant. They go ahead and they go serve that arrest warrant, go pick them up. Now, you guys are probably wondering, I said earlier, right? Yo, are the feds going to be involved? Well, there's two ways that I can see the feds being involved in this. Number one, when they get an arrest warrant for him and he's not in the state of Texas, they're going to have to go ahead and get the U.S. Marshals involved, okay? Because now he's considered like kind of like almost a fugitive, right? Because he's not in the state of Texas. So they have to go ahead and get the U.S. Marshals involved to go get him, because Texas law enforcement doesn't have the authority to go get him in another state, right? Then if they're able to establish, right, that he's running from the police, then what they could do is they can go ahead and call the FBI and get something called an unlawful flight to avoid prosecution warrant, okay, which is also known as a UFAP, okay? And that pretty much makes it a federal crime where if you know that you've been indicted or charged and you don't turn yourself in and you're unlawfully flighting prosecution, now the FBI can come in because you're affecting interstate nexus and go ahead and get you. And why that's so important is because now the state of Texas can use federal resources, right, of the FBI or any other federal agency, to be honest, that has like some type of investigative authority to go get this fucking guy, right? But typically a lot of times they'll go to the Bureau. And then also they'll have the U.S. Marshals involved as well. And that will give the U.S. Marshals a little bit more authority to go after him as well, because now they got a federal warrant for him. Okay. So that's how I think it's going to play out. And I think that's what's going to happen as far as get that guy out of here. How are you going to tell me it's wrong when I'm telling you how the federal system works and how they could potentially be involved in this situation? So that's what may happen if he's not in the state at the time. But more than likely, they know who it is. They're either A, getting that grand jury convened, or the other option is they can submit something called a criminal complaint. And a criminal complaint, guys, is an affidavit written by an investigator, right? You can do this at the federal or the state level, and they cite all the facts in their investigation, and then they go ahead and give it to a judge. And if the judge approves it, they can go ahead, they'll get assigned. Hey, do you swear everything is true to the best of your knowledge, right? So help you God, boom, yes, signs it. agent signs it, or in this case, the detective signs it, and then he gets an arrest warrant, and then he can go get him on that. So those are the two main ways to charge someone, right? And then there's a third, which is an information, but we're not going to talk about an information because 9 out of 10 times when someone gets charged with an information, which is the prosecutor basically charging you directly without a grand jury being involved, they're cooperating 9 out of 10 times. So we're not going to even go down that road. But anyway,